Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SPReacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Alex Woburn titled Ecstasy. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen on Spotify. Now, it should be noted this is not the first track that I've listened to from Alex. We've also had songs like Scrooge and Boring Stories, and it's typically been really good to listen through their stuff. So we're going to listen through his latest track from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. We're also going to give this song an overall score out of 10 at the end, but until then, let's go.
I can't believe it did again last night, 'cause for so long I was doing alright, but when I saw you at the pub, I crumbled. I hate how this situation unfolds.
Get that art up on the screen.
Rejected, confused, I can't believe how you done and left it. I'm on my own and you're Mr. Popular. You got your wish 'cause now we are sober. Don't, please don't say that again to me. You're such a tease. Why do I keep going back when the calm down so bad? You're my ecstasy. You're the best that I've had. The other pills were bad. You're the thrill I seek. And even though you treat me wrong, I can't say goodbye. It's so long. Why do I keep going back when the calm down so bad? You're my ecstasy.
Okay, we got that hook line in there as well, and I think it was nice to have that AABA structure to the chorus there. There's a bit of range compositionally between the different sections. It's good.
I can't believe it's been 8 months in the wallow, running over a night and still no one knows why I cry. This is my poison. The arrow won't come out. Why was I chosen? Assassinated is the happiness inside me, and now the ruins is only what's left to see. Fake smiles and pain in my laughter. I got my wish 'cause now we are over. Why, oh why won't my mind let go? I'll go insane. Why do I keep going back when the calm down so bad? You're my ecstasy. You're the best that I've had. The other pills were bad. You're the thrill I seek.
I mean, it's a complicated harmony, but I think it works.
Wrong, I can't say goodbye. It's so long. Why do I keep going back when the calm down so bad? You're my ecstasy. I can't eat, can't see the love we had is haunting me. Can't breathe, can't see the love we had is striking me. I'm falling. Why do I keep going
Great.
back when the calm down so bad? You're my ecstasy. You're the best that I've had. The other pills were bad. You're the thrill I seek. And even though you treat me wrong, I can't say goodbye. It's so long. Why do I keep going back when the calm down so bad? You're my ecstasy. 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 Ecstasy.
Cool. All right, we're going to figure out the score, and then we'll talk about this track more in the conclusion. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Alex Woburn titled Ecstasy. Now, before we go into it, I gave this song an overall score of 7.7 out of 10 based on the criteria on the screen. But before we get into that, what is this song about? I think it's about someone who just has this massive high from this other person, and they're talking about their interpersonal relationships and the way they get with them, and they kind of regret getting involved with them every single time because the come down afterwards is just awful, like coming down from that effect that the person has, and they regret it afterwards, but it's just so addictive, I assume. So I feel like there'll be an audience that can relate to having interpersonal relationships, people they're attracted to and stuff like that, as well as maybe even like dependency stuff. I think it's an interesting topic to discuss in the track, and I feel like it's accessible. To further what we're discussing within that part, I think that the vocals are really well handled there. I have a lot of love for the way that Alex communicates. I consistently hear solid vocal technique there. There's a kind of a fluffiness to it there. There's never any harsh edges there. But I kind of appreciate that because I think that it just would have been a little bit too edgy if you tried to do that. I don't think you can force it. Everyone has a kind of natural texture and timbre. So I think that it's great to listen to. It's very personable. And it's never takes itself too seriously, even though you can tell that they are struggling with the situation. I think the use of vocal melodies within this piece and how we kind of kept things going with the rest of the elements within the composition was strong. We had a lot of other really interesting stuff going on instrumentally within this piece there to an extent where I feel like it's sort of transcendent in regards to other songs I've heard. I appreciate the variety within a composition, but I just want to note that the vocals at this point are the icing on the cake. And so if we talk about the actual song itself, like for example, the way that it's structured is incredible. You start with this da da da, and then you go straight into the verse, and you have this really kind of sensational sequence of thing going on with the bass there with a kind of really curious interval or harmony that's going on there with the way that those synths are set up there. They're not just rolling with the roots, dum bum. It's like we're not harmonizing with the root, we're feeding off of something within the triad, and I kind of dig like the seventh or something like that. And it just works really neatly with it adds a sense of sophistication to the mix, and it works really neatly on top of the drums, where the drums in this track are spectacular as well, I suppose, to use that word a second time in such a short amount. It's that you not only have the main chord note groove there, but there's always wonderful 8th and 16th note patterns there. We're not afraid to add more extra kicks in there to kind of add a sense of pace to it. But we also know how to sort of like step away from it and allow things to float a little bit. Like in the bridge, we have absolutely no drums apart from the claps that go into the chorus section. We go back into the chord note grooves there with the kicks and snares and sort of cymbal patterns there. But it's like just great to have a few key ingredients of the instrumental layers pulling quite a lot, but without allowing there to also to be dynamic range because of the lack of instrumental layers in certain parts and then kind of going up in others. I like the use of rises to infer that we're going from the verse, for example, into the bridge, but for then to sort of like fade out like you're coming up and then suddenly, boom, you're coming down again. I think that's clever in the way that it relates to what's being spoken about in the song, so that's very good. And we talked about poison arrows coming out, and there's like little kind of flutters from the synthesizers and stuff like that, almost like a bow is being plucked. It's really cool ideas there that add a sense of like depth to the piece there, where we're really trying to get this again, the vocals and the actual instrumental parts to connect. And there's like movements as well rhythmically between like normal time and half time as well, such as in the second later of the second verse and maybe in the first as well. But it's just really cool to mess with expectations there and to not have the same feeling the entire time. You need to allow there to be variety, diversity within a piece in order to pull people through, even when a track is within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot like this song is. And I just want to sort of give a shout out with the falling parts there with the vocal harmonies are absolutely sensational. So it's not just that the instrumental parts they develop throughout the piece there, it's that also the vocals add more and more as we go along. And there's constant change. But at the same time, this is not a complaint on my part. I feel like there's a relative consistency in the post-production with the gluing and stuff like that to a point where even though it sounds commercial grade, I'm wondering if we could have done more within the composition, like had like another lead layer or another instrument or something like that, kind of like you could have potentially had like a solo instrument kind of like communicate a little bit of what's going on with the vocals, like, but then at the same time, if it's vocal oriented, it's totally fine. I know within the genre you don't have a lot of solo sections and a lot of pop music, so that's totally fine. But then, of course, to be fair, in the outro section, you do have some guitar arpeggios going on the left side of the stereo field with the repetition of the Ecstasy hook line. So then, therefore, I'm being mistaken there. It's exactly why you need to have multiple listens through some of these tracks, because there's always little intricacies, these little fancy bits that elevate it and give it sort of like a sense of, it makes it really special. So I think structurally the movements between the verse, chorus, and bridges are fantastic there. I think the movement in the like middle eight, like later on to going into the acoustic section with the filtered, it's not just the fact that there's like acoustic guitar with Alex's filtered acoustic guitar, almost like it is literally a person in their room kind of working through their feelings on this after that high, like the next morning or something like that. It's really great attention to detail that shows a level of polish here that I think that we need to be able to find a place in the music industry nowadays. And so thematically, in addition to the very sort of synth bass riser drum parts, so as well as the vocals on top and like the guitar, like even the strummed guitar part simply working, like, because there are other guitar parts. And like I'm clicking through the song and I'm remembering there's this like little sort of like filtered pattern part after the first chorus where we have just simply like, that's a post-production thing. You really do need to listen through this track multiple times to get all the nuances. But just the use of arpeggios and strummed acoustic parts and those quiet bits alongside the really polished drum parts, the bass parts on top, the synths and everything else going on within the stereo field create this overall theme that again, because of the way it's harmonized with some of those seventh resonances and stuff like that, adds a sense of emotional sort of like complexity to it. It's a minor oriented piece there because I think we're struggling, but it's also got a kind of a major lean in that chorus section, which infers we secretly enjoy the high even if it sucks afterwards. But also it's difficult to kind of distinguish because again of the nuance. And it shows kind of like a to and fro kind of thing going on within the story of the track. And so thematically, the song works. Got no complaints about how it's written. It performed very tight. The studio production, mixing and mastering is great. I appreciate again how the vocals, guitars, bass, drums, synths, everything else was captured. I appreciate the rises and use of postfix and filtering, and automation and those kind of fun things to infer transitions between pieces to allow for things to kind of be a bit more sort of like floating in certain elements there. Just cognizant adaptations to what exists within the track to keep it compelling. They use instruments around the stereo field as well as the vocals and the harmony sections at some of those end parts kind of splitting around the stereo field, kind of surrounding you in the headphones was cool. There is dynamic range, although it's mostly sort of instrumental layered because of the gluing of the compression, but it's still nice and loud without pumping. So the bus compression and limiting is handled. And effectively, that's just a really positive review of this track from an act named Alex Woburn titled Ecstasy. There's nothing I'd really want to sort of like change about this personally. No like constructive critique. I think for me, I appreciate when you, but we already found out there were little kind of subtle sub leads and stuff like that, such as the arpeggios on one side of the stereo field there, or like simply parts where you had the instrumental parts by themselves to allow change. So it's totally fine. It's really well done. And that's my review of this track, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and a Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.